time it right. So we already reflected on some of this when we spoke about the 3 C's up front, but the timing of your message is so critical. Monday morning, worst time to send a communication. Most people, hopefully, don't have their emails on their phones. And so Monday, you're playing catch up. Lots of stuff has come through. Monday morning, the last thing you have headspace for is to purchase something else. Numbers. So I chose 7 as this list very specifically because 7 is a nudgy number. It's an odd number. It's not a multiple of 5. How many sort of Huffington Post articles, top 10 tips, top 15 tips have we read? So coming up with an odd number, coming up with a slightly unusual number, not only does it grab attention, it also it stops people and they pause and reflect, and they're far more likely to be able to recall the message if it was slightly offbeat or, not business as usual. Think about tense. So I did mention the present simple tense being the most credible tense in the English language. And wherever possible, if you can relate things in the present, that would absolutely be my advice. And the reason being is we know we have to do all these things to be healthy and to save for retirement, but no one really cares about the future because we always think, I'll do it tomorrow. And then that tomorrow becomes the next tomorrow. The perfect pronoun. So if you're at all on social media or following any of the LGBT stuff happening around the world, pronouns have become very, very spoken about. And that's because they are markers of identity. So just as people who are identifying as various genders, various sexes, want certain pronouns to be used to sort of identify them, pronouns can be very inclusive, so talking to us and we and building a community, or they can be very othering. So an example would be like an us versus them, if you were trying to create some sort of divide between 2 groups of people. Sentence type, don't want to make this sound too linguistic, so I'll go through this one pretty quickly, but we know that we've got command type sentences called imperatives, questions called interrogatives, and statements called declaratives. Now, a very compelling piece of communication sort of peppers, a few of these and in different ways throughout, so that you obviously, as a reader, you're quite engaged and you're seeing different sentence types, which will lead you ultimately to the end of the piece of communication. But to start with a call to action or imperative when you're kind of cold emailing or cold writing to someone is obviously just not an ideal thing to do, because it can come across as quite aggressive. In those contexts, definitely starting with a question-based sentence is golden. And the reason being is, as humans, it's within our innate nature that we want to answer a question. We like to finish things. So even if we don't really want to engage with it or we think we don't care about it, if we see a billboard or an email or an SMS come through and there's a question, despite ourselves, our brain's answering it. And that means you've already hooked them. Hopefully the question's compelling enough that then it leads them to obviously what the point of your communication is. But questions are great in this space. So my last tip is quite specifically about behavioral science. There were underlying areas throughout, obviously, all the other tips that addressed some of this. But based on those 189 that we saw on that circle graphic at the beginning, the 3 I've chosen, and that I use quite a lot in some of the work I do for Reach for a Dream, are rhyme as reason, herding, and reciprocity. So rhyme as reason, this one blows my mind. The thinking is that when we grew up, when we were little, caregivers in our lives read us stories, or we watched Kiddio or Pumpkin Patch or any of those types of very lyrical, rhymey, easy to watch TV shows. And we did it in a space that, for the most part, we trusted the caregivers around us. We felt safe, and we felt that the message being, not so much the message being given to us, but certainly the person delivering the message was someone who we could inherently trust in our lives. And that has stayed with us, well, 70% of us who chose A, right up until adulthood, where we now think if there's a rhyme, in fact, you don't even think it, you don't even know it. And even now that I'm telling you this, it'll be interesting as you leave here today and you go out into the world and see some of these rhyme as reason stuff. I'm affected by these things, even though every day I'm working with this content and I'm so aware of these nudges and various interventions. Despite yourself, you still fall straight back into your inherent behavioral patterns. Herding is a fairly obvious one. I'm pretty sure most people have heard about it. And it makes sense. As much as we want to call ourselves unique individual people, we are social creatures. And we are very persuaded to do things based on other people. So a great example of behavioral linguistics in this space is with the Behavioral Insights team. They were actually the first government nudge unit that existed, and they're based in the UK. That was their sort of flagship branch. And they did work with taxpayers. And they did various things. They hand wrote on the envelopes. They said something like, "Please read this, love, Martha," and it was handwritten, not the printed version of like Bradley hand. And they moved certain things. There was like a bit of a pre-commitment thing where if you had to sign something, they moved the signature up to the top. So all very cool stuff. But from a linguistic point of view, they started using this concept of social proofing. So, "Hi, Leigh, 80% of people in Craighall Park have already paid their taxes. You're one of the few people who have not. Do it now." And then the final principle to look at here is reciprocity. The sense that if I do something for you, you're going to do something back for me. And what's so interesting here is what I do for you originally can actually be the tiniest, smallest little thing. You feel when you do back, gift me something back, that it actually has to be at a much more heightened level or value. And back to the donation example, walking out of a Pick and Pay and getting the little sticker, and now feeling like you need to donate 50 Rand somewhere when that sticker cost, 20 cents? So there's really like a non-reciprocal sense of value, but definitely you've done something for me, I need to do something for you.